Okay, so for my Genius Hour project, I decided to take a shot at making pixel art. Um, I decided to try this because I really like pixel art. Like, it's probably one of my favorite art styles, and I've always wanted to try to succeed at doing like any art form. I was never really good at, drawing or painting, so I decided to try pixel art. So yeah. Um, my overall objective for this project was not to make anything like super like detailed or anything like it was more to see if I could make any successful projects out of an art form that I enjoyed. And success wise, I think I did all right. So some of the challenges that I faced were a lot of there's a lot of different like things you can add, like detailing, shading, and stuff like that were pretty hard to do. So I only really added them in some of the pieces that I made, and yeah, those were pretty hard to manage whenever I actually attempted to do things like that. Some setbacks were kind of finding inspiration for some of the pieces, because a lot of the pixel art that I enjoy is like really detailed ones, and I'm not like good enough to do that. So it was kind of hard to find really like basic examples of pixel art that I could try and make. But yeah, and that's about it for the challenges and setbacks that I faced. Besides being lazy, but that's that's besides the point. Okay, so this was these are my successful pieces, I guess you could say, that I didn't like either give up on or didn't enjoy enough to put up. So this was one of my like first works that I did. It's really simplistic, and I attempted shading really early on, and it looks really, really bad, to be honest. Yeah, it's pretty bad looking. Um, here's another one of that I made early on in this project. It's kind of like a river type thing, and I was trying to kind of making it look like the sun was reflecting off the water here, and it turned out all right. Still pretty bad looking though, and a lot of my earlier project pieces were had to deal with trees because I found them pretty easy to make while still looking pretty good. So yeah. Um, here's a tunnel that I tried to make. I was trying to add like kind of like a misty kind of like fog type thing at the entrance there. And that was actually really hard to make. That was hard. Trying to make it look like it was transparent with the background. It was pretty hard to do. And yeah, that's why I only attempted it once. And this was one of the projects that I started but kind of didn't really finish per se. It's still like kind of a finished piece, but I kind of wanted to add more to it, but I didn't because I got lazy or just didn't really know what else to add. I don't remember. So this is this is my best tree that I made. It was it was kind of detailed because I added the shadows and the leaves and the bark is darker. Like this is the lightest, that's kind of dark, and that's really dark. Because I was adding like shadow type things, and this was like my best attempt at shadows and a tree. So yeah, I was proud of this one. And yeah, um, next would probably be this duck that I made. It's pretty bad, but for this one, I I was working with a larger scale of pixels, so it kind of looks more detailed, kind of like more smooth, but it was pretty hard to do since there was a lot of pixels. You can add like a lot of detail, but it's also really easy to make it look really bad. So it was like really my only attempt with a high amount of pixels on the screen. And yeah, um, here's another one that I attempted with like a lot of pixels, with like a higher pixel scale. It's this clock, but this one turned out like really good. Except for the only thing I didn't really like about this one was the background I used for like the inside. I thought I could like, now that I look at it, I probably could have used like a darker color or something. But yeah, this one turned out pretty good. And the last two are probably my favorite ones that I made. Kind of like made like a abandoned chest and kind of like a dungeon scene type thing. I kind of took inspiration from Terraria, like a old temple type thing, the game Terraria. So yeah, that's what I kind of took inspiration from. And yeah, I really liked how this one turned out. And this one I was kind of like working with the detailing, like moss growing on the chest and it like getting cracked and molded and stuff. And I had these vines. That was probably the only thing I didn't really enjoy about this piece is how clumped together the vines looked. So if I ever went back and tried to fix it, that's probably what I would try to do, is try to make these like less clumped together. But yeah, and this one turned out pretty good. I kind of made like an abandoned hallway in a house or something like that. I was trying to like make like a room type thing, but like every time I tried, it failed. So this was like my best attempt at trying to do that. It's kind of like a hallway. So like you have like cracks in the walls and spider webs and cobwebs, and like the picture frames are all torn and damaged and cracked, and the chest, and then not the chest, the dresser or drawers or whatever you want to call it is like moldy and stuff. But yeah, I liked how this one turned out too. Um, Out of all of them, I enjoyed this one and this one the most. Also, this tree. Yeah, there was a lot of pieces that I didn't put on here because I kind of just either threw them out or just thought they were so bad that they didn't need to be seen. So yeah, um, so yeah, that's my Instagram pixely art, I guess. If you want to take a closer look at these each individually. So yeah, what I learned from this was that even though pixel art seems kind of like simplistic and stuff, it's still really hard to do, especially if you want to add like detailing to it. It's really hard to do, like the shading and like the reflections on the water there. It's really hard to do, even though it's just a bunch of squares. Even though it's a bunch of squares and and colors, it's still a pretty hard art form to do. And I did have quite a bit of fun with this project, so I will probably continue to try and get better at making pixel art, and if I do, I'll probably just post it here. So yeah, and that's about it. So